This is Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. We're here on Xbox Series X. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So what are we getting here? We have two different performance mode options, and they're actually quite similar in terms of context. There's HDR support, and there is actually ray tracing, but it's only in the garage, so kind of pointless. But yeah, we got prioritized frame rate and we have prioritized quality. So both are a dynamic 4K resolution targeting 60 FPS. So we saw this with Elden Ring, actually very, very similar options, and then later on they did add also the ability to have, like, ray tracing applied, which was interesting. But in this context, we just have ray tracing for the, well, as aforementioned, garage aspect of the game. So for quality mode, it's a lot more demanding. So they've kind of like up-tuned some of the details of the environment. They're pushing things a little bit further, and you're gonna probably have some deeper performance hits, like into the 40 FPS probably mark. Now, if you got VRR, which is variable refresh rate, on your screen, that could help a little bit, but you are definitely during combat going to notice performance hiccups in this one in the quality mode. So I would recommend going for the prioritize the frame rate personally. It still looks pretty good, and it's a lot, not necessarily perfect, but it's a lot closer to the desired 60 FPS. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts in in that regard. So yeah, we've also got not only a fairly in-depth single player, holy, there's also multiplayer. Now, the big issue with the multiplayer is that you have to get to the end of, I believe it's Act, or Chapter 2. They don't really call them acts, they're chapters in this. And it's like quite a few hours into the game, depending on how good you are. So, the people you do play multiplayer are probably gonna be pretty good. And, like, yeah. If there's not going to be many people either. That's the other thing. So there's not going to be a lot of people, and the people you're going to play against are going to be really good at what they're doing, and that is, a little bit of an issue in that regard. So for the single player, the story kind of plays itself out across these missions, these like little things. So you go out, destroy this, do that, kill a boss, fight a thing, and you get like trickled story content through these meetings, through these debriefings, through this discussion. Sometimes during gameplay, but most of the time it's the debriefings are where you get the information from. So the first bit of this, I think it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours, was really easy going. Like, I didn't really have too many problems. Like, some people probably will struggle on some of the boss fight things, but like, it really, to me, was not that bad at all. And then you get to a certain boss, and you're just like, holy, okay. Little unnecessarily ridiculous. And I was just kind of like, huh. I don't know if I was super frustrated, but I was kind of like, oh, well, here's the Dark Souls, the Elden Ring of it all. Because it's like, obviously, company-wise, it's not necessarily like a Dark Souls game, really, right? But, like, as soon as I got to that boss fight, I was like, yeah, this is where the signatures of their style is coming in. And I'm like, ugh. Like, it felt so tonally, like, completely out of pace. And just completely out of place. So, yeah, a lot of this game really is based around your mech. The customization in this is extensive and incredible. Like, you can make your completely own emblems with all kinds of shapes and colors and designs, and you can completely colorize and change the detail of your mech to be whatever you want. Like, I got Christmas tree, or not Christmas tree, but Christmas, like, green and red going on here. But you can, like, really make it what you want. You can put like rockets, you can do, you know, like bigger legs, you can have legs that are like these track kind of like tank legs, you know, smaller legs, you could have really, really, really big legs. You can have legs that allow you to fly weirdly, and you can change the arms and the face, and you can change like how damaged looking your mech is. There are many ways to change how your mech looks and plays, and that's a big part of the game. Is like if you have a situation where your mech isn't like delivering in a like a situation, you can on the fly if you have the parts. You know what I mean? If you have the parts during a mission, you can switch them out. Like I'm fighting a boss, I'm like, oh, this isn't working. I need bigger legs, larger legs, stronger ones, or really focusing on the legs, but like, you know, maybe different arms, or maybe I need to lower the weight, or I need better fuel for like flying around, or, you know, maybe I need all that stuff. And you can change it on the fly. But like if you are stuck and nothing you have is working, you need to like leave the mission and go back to the shop and buy stuff. So it's good to have extra parts so you can replay missions to get extra money or do extra challenges. And then the thing we just did was like an arena battle. In the arena battle, it gives you like these chip sets so you could get extra bonus abilities too, but you have to like unlock them by playing and whatnot. So it's like it's intriguing, you know, and the campaign is probably going to be decently lengthy based on you dying and whatnot. Like at times it could be fun. At times it can also be a little, like, for me, a little bit boring because it's just kind of like, oh, okay, I'm just going through, and then all of a sudden you're just getting like railed, and it's like the shifts are just really, really weird in this one. I don't get it because most of the time it's actually like you're flying, you're dodging, you're shooting. It could be really cool looking, like when I'm flying around like this and I'm just like sort of hovering along the floor. Super, super cool. You know, like I really do enjoy that aspect of it. And there's a bit of a, you know, surprise in the narrative of this one. Like you're trying to figure out what's going on. Like you're literally true, you are a mercenary. Like you start the game by straight up stealing someone else's tags, QR code, so that you can work on the planet, and that's kind of it. And you get some pretty nice looking cinematics too. Like I actually really like the visuals of this game. Like they're simplistic to a degree, right? Like, you know, wow, you are definitely like a larger than life kind of mech out here, which is neat. But like, yeah, I do like the aesthetics of this world. Like it's really, it feels vast. Like I'm trying to show off the environment. I keep getting killed by these sniper laser things. But like it's just this huge kind of like, you know, location. And I also just love that like there's so much variety in the world too, because it's supposed to be like a world kind of engulfed in like like flames and destruction, and yet there's still like, you know, snowy tree areas and there's deserts, and I was just kind of like, oh, that's a bit weird. I think we're actually gonna die because like I'm actually surprised by the kind of attacks that are going on. So you actually get to go to different like environments, and there's like huge like weird mech boss battles, and like there's some crazy stuff that goes on in this game. But you really do experience it and you explore in your own way, because you are the mech you create, right? Like, so I like melee, and you know, you could be more of a heavy sort of mech, and you can fly around in different ways, and you know, the way you interact with the world is really based on the way that you create, you know, your mech. And it's going to completely vary your experience and how hardcore everything is in the particular mission based on what you've set up. And I think that in itself is pretty cool. And it's just like, it's so distinct the way you customize your mech, and it's neat that like nothing is locked, if that makes sense. Like, you know, a lot of other groups, if they were to make this sort of thing, it would be like a nightmare in regards to how all this stuff is done. Was it a trap? It was a trap! Oh, and I should also mention, because I didn't mention this off the bat, apparently there was this was like a gifted game, so there was a couple individuals on the channel, Slaughter and I believe Trance as well, came together to gift this to me because they wanted to see me in absolute misery playing this. So I guess a thanks to them for experiencing this. So there you go, guys. If you were wondering who's behind this one, I was like, because I was like, oh, you know, I didn't really get it or anything, so I was like, oh, that's fine. Not too heartbroken. I was like, whatever. But, yeah, now we're here. The sea spider is going to kill me. Oh, the trauma. But it's like, you know, some of the bosses aren't too bad. You know, sometimes it takes a few times to do them, but, like, as I said, the opening was just, like, really, really quite carefree. I do wish that they would make the multiplayer more available right off the bat, though. Because my hope was kind of, like, getting in there and kind of being able to figure out what kind of mech I wanted to use, see what other strategies people were designing. Because it's like, you know, there's different types of... Oh, it lands. I thought it came from inside the cargo container. That's hilarious. Because you know, you got different types of weapons for different types of scenarios, and it's neat to kind of play around with things and get what works best for you kind of going on, right? Like, you know, the plasma stuff might be a little bit better for shields, some stuff might be better for bullets, some things is like... I just noticed melee seems to be like a really strong thing. It's like, you know, you're going to be more of a flying thing, and then you got to like balance your energy too. I don't know if you're noticing that on the middle there. Wow, this thing is actually kind of aggressive. I am way too tired to be aggressive with this thing tonight. Woo! No, I guess you can just beat the Institute. Holy. But you can kind of see, like, how you approach things. Like, I found that some, if you get, like, a bit of a staggering approach, you can just keep, like, pushing back an enemy. Whereas, like, other bosses, it might be more of a laid-back styling. It's really the situation at hand. And then you get these, like, really cool kind of sci-fi backdrops. Because, like, everything here is supposed to be, you know, it's larger than life, right? Like, you know, this is... You're huge compared to, like, other people. Like, you can kind of tell that because some of the missions are on, like, buildings where you can kind of see, like, apartments or highways that people were, like, would use and stuff. And it's supposed to be this really messed up planet where, you know, Rubicon, where things didn't go well. And you're after this, like, specific resource, or, like, you're not after it. The people that keep paying you are after it, I guess is the better way to kind of put that. Like, you are, you know, you're just like a mercenary, right? Like, this is just your job. You know, you're here for the highest bidder, you're an augmented human pilot thing, and you're just doing what you can to make money for your, like, handler, and then there's some surprises along the way, too, from a narrative standpoint, and how you operate, and how you experience things. Kind of neat. Yeah, I do find a lot of it to be intriguing. I don't know if it's necessarily like my jam of a game, but I can definitely see where for some people they find this to be a really enchanting thing, because it's like, it's the mech you build, the situation you set up, and I guess it would also be very strategic to like find good builds for different scenarios, and that might actually help you a bit. Because it is like, you know, your mech is what you make it in this this series, and it's just really intriguing to have a new offering. Wow, I like literally got it to like 33%. I think if I wasn't so exhausted right now at the point of actually filming this, I might actually be able to put up a better fight against this thing and actually kill it. But nobody just wants to watch the same mission over and over again, so we'll go and show off a earlier one, I guess. I guess we could also do another arena battle. Which, like I said, you know, you do these, you get some chips and some money. Obviously, the money will help you buy for your mech, but the chips will give you like little bonuses, like, you know, you can take better damage and or mitigate damage better and get some other bonuses. Like I think like a kicking ability is one of them and stuff. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, I really wish the multiplayer was just present and available, because I think I actually would really quite like it. But you know, again, is the community gonna thrive if it's so hard to get into that and play it? You know, what kind of like players you could be up against? It's a lot of questions in that, and usually you don't feel that in a multiplayer game. Like, you know what I mean? Like, usually multiplayer you just jump into, and it's like usually actually multiplayer games almost always exists as its own like separate community outside of like single player content. But when you're part of the Armored Core, it's definitely a neat franchise, though. I am intrigued by this because like we do, like there's like a good selection of mech games, but there's not like a ton of mech games. You know what I mean? And it's hard to compare this to other mech games because it does actually feel like its own thing. And there's not enough like super defined mech franchises that I would be like, oh, you know, this is like that, this is like that. And this one does have a long legacy, so it's definitely like, you know, it's got its own vibe to it, which I definitely think is interesting. Oh, I can't move. Can't over leverage your mech, otherwise you're just gonna die out really easily. But this is like the dynamics of it, you know? You're flying, you're battling, sometimes you're soaring high, sometimes you're skirting around on the ground. It really depends on the situation and the conflict and what the challenge at hand actually is offering you. But I do love, you know, the sense of freedom of like literally creating your own mech and not feeling like you are like limited by any means. You know, it's just about the more you earn, the more you're able to improve your mech and your abilities. It doesn't make it easier necessarily to any degree. Like there's not like, oh, I'm buying this part and it's just like this is a huge improvement for me. You know, it's not that kind of thing, but it's like, oh, this part in this situation is really good, or this part in this situation is awesome, or getting rid of this part temporarily will allow me to move a little bit faster so I can take on this threat. That's kind of the big part of this one, is adapting to survive. And you know, it is pretty visually good looking, I'd say. You know, is it like evolutionary in regards to like gameplay styling and stuff? I don't know, but you know, it's still like fine aesthetically. Your mech looks really cool with all the little parts of it, like fire like going off when you're jetting around, and you see all the missiles shooting off, or maybe the bullets, or maybe the laser shots. Like it is actually pretty impressive from like the smaller technical scale. I definitely will give them that, as I'm like, oh wow, this looks really neat in fluid action. I think they did a good job with that, because you know, to me, that's one of the biggest parts of these games, is just like all the little mechanical bits of seeing your like robot, you know, mech kind of moving around and actually reacting to what's going on. And there's some like cool little bits of destruction too. Oh, that was a good shot. You know, just in terms of like the environment, like you move through trees. You know, there's large trees. You literally dash through them, if that makes sense. Like they smash around you, some buildings and stuff. Like you feel the weight kind of your mech. If you're familiar with like, I do not meet the conditions. You have to do each of them in a row. That's hilarious. That actually is really funny. But like what I was gonna say is it's sort of like, if you've seen Pacific Rim, that's one I love to kind of mention. It, you know, when I think of mech type stuff, that one I really love, because that movie kind of shows like the weighting of mechs in a more realistic and like grounded kind of way. And I don't know if we'll ever have mechs that move quite like this, but it's cool seeing that your particular like offerings in this game, when they run into something in the world, it actually like breaks and crumbles around them, and you feel like you're able to cause mayhem, destruction, and just smash everything, which is neat. So yeah, I don't know if this one will be for everyone. Like, it's not straight up like Dark Souls or Elden Ring, but like it is, you see where those smaller kind of intricacies come into this one, and you can see that like that is the case for this, that it is along that vein of game type.